Okay, hey everyone, welcome back to The Thoughtful Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Jen Amos, and today I'm really excited, as I usually am when I do the show, because I get to interview another incredible entrepreneur in our world today. So I want to introduce you all to Akshay Bhargava, who is the Chief Product Officer or CPO of Malwarebytes. This probably sounds really familiar to you, and you'll learn more in a minute. If you want to learn more about him and his company, though, his company is his website is malwarebytes.com, and that's spelled MALWAREBYTES.com. Akshay, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I've liked to do since 2020 has happened is I like to do mental health check-ins and just see how people are doing. So how have you been holding up? How's your week been?
It's been good. I mean, it does seem like we're going through some of the most crazy times. There is definitely some work from home fatigue setting in,
Yeah.
but definitely powering through it. And the best part is getting to work on exciting technology and work on really innovative stuff. So that helps keep the mind off of all the other craziness going on.
Yeah, I believe you. I personally, for me, I feel like I've sort of grown this anxiety, but I think it's more so of like this sense of purpose to put good stuff out there. Because I think there's a lot of negativity out there. There could be like if you're not intentional about it, you could definitely look at everything that's wrong in the world right now. And so, what I love doing is focusing on things that I can control and focus on what I have in front of me and work on projects and volunteer. And it's really helped distract me from what's going on, because if I'm not working on that, all these external things are still happening anyway, whether I pay attention to it or not. So, really great to hear that, you've been staying busy yourself.
Yes, and so well said, Jen. Totally. Having a sense of purpose, it gives so much fulfillment in your life, and it helps, protect you from all the craziness going on. So yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Akshay, since you are busy nowadays, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about your company, Malwarebytes. Tell us, for people that are hearing about it for the first time, or they're like, hey, that company sounds familiar. Tell us what the company is about and what it does.
Absolutely. So we're a cybersecurity company, and
Mm-hmm.
our purpose is to help make you feel secure and know that you're secure,
Mm-hmm.
from cyber threats. And unfortunately, even with COVID, it's a nasty world in terms of cyber criminal activity and COVID
Mm-hmm.
scams and all the things that are happening. So our purpose is make you safe, make you secure. And it doesn't matter whether you're a consumer, whether you're a small business, whether you're a large enterprise, we have technology to help make that happen and make you secure, make you safe from cyber threats.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, given the pandemic and everyone having to, work virtually, it's more important than ever to pay attention to cybersecurity and, watch out for, the scammers or, people who know how to break into a system and, hack your computer, what have you. So it's great to know that, you're kind of like the virtual security guards of today, the
Yes,
digital security guards.
we're your friends on your laptop, your mobile device, your work computer, making sure that we're the superheroes inside your computer, making sure keeping you safe every single day.
Yeah. And one thing that I think is very impressive for your company is that you are recommended by Apple. So congratulations for that.
Thank you for that. And yes, we love to, we love getting the endorsement from all the big companies out there. And I think it just proves and speaks volumes to, what I'm so passionate about is building great products, great technology that can help customers solve the most important problems. And
Yeah.
clearly cybersecurity and fixing threats and protecting against threats is something that's very relevant in today's day and age.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's backtrack a little bit, Akshay. I'm curious to know, how did you even get into cybersecurity and into the work you're doing today with Malwarebytes?
Yeah, so let me take you back in time a little bit. So, I was coming out of business school at MIT Sloan, and I was really passionate about, just getting into the workforce and solving the most important problems.
Mm.
And then I went to McKinsey and Company. I was a management consultant for many years. I worked with a lot of board of directors, a lot of CEOs, a lot of CIOs. And one thing kept coming up: cybersecurity, helping keep us secure, and cloud transformation. So
Mm.
these two topics kept coming up. And I knew, despite there being lots of different solutions, lots of different players, the problem wasn't going away.
Mm-hmm.
Attacks were still rising. Companies were struggling to hire the right talent, build awareness for their employees that cybersecurity threats are real, how to protect the organization and yourself from it. Just a whole ecosystem of everything you need to think about cybersecurity.
Mm-hmm.
So at that moment, I realized if there's one thing that I can, that I really want to focus and really help companies and people and organizations is to become more cyber aware, cyber secure. And so that's when the transformation really happened for me, is just through all the series of conversations, I realized like that's a white space. People, despite there being lots of solutions, the threats are still happening. They're only rising. They're becoming more sophisticated. And that's when I decided to go deeper into cloud computing and cybersecurity. And really, Malwarebytes is a company that's bringing both of those worlds together, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're helping make companies secure with the best cybersecurity solutions, and we're using cloud and cloud computing to power our solutions and make our solutions better for consumers and businesses.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely incredible. I know that you mentioned that, this product is for companies as well as consumers. Do you have any maybe specific examples or testimonials of people who are like, oh my gosh, this is amazing?
Yeah, so I'll tell you a quick story. One of the things, one of the worst things that can happen to a company, and I sure hope that it doesn't happen to any of our listeners or their companies, but
Mm-hmm.
getting hit by ransomware is a
Mm.
devastating thing to happen to a company. There's companies, I've personally spoken with companies where, because of ransomware and trying to recover from the ransomware, and even in some cases paying the ransom, the company still
Wow.
went bankrupt, right? So it's
Wow.
devastating to the point of, it can ruin not only the prospects of the company, but the livelihood of a company. So one of the things that I'm so passionate and so blessed that we have is we have a technology that we call, ransomware rollback. It's a feature of one of our products called endpoint detection and response.
Mm-hmm.
And what you can do is when you get hit with ransomware, you can literally click a button and the ransomware goes away. Poof, it's gone. It's
Wow.
almost like magic. I mean, this is what our customers tell us is, you know, it's so easy to clean up our systems, and we can go back to a healthy state. And
Mm-hmm.
so this is something that I think is an example of, a powerful technology that we as Malwarebytes have tried to create in a very easy to use, very accessible way for even the smallest companies or even consumers to manage their security, make it really simple, take away all the complexity so that everyone can be secure. And one of the things that I talk a lot about is democratization of cybersecurity, right?
Mm.
There's this belief that if you're really big, if you're a Fortune 1000 company and you spend tens or hundreds of millions of dollars on cybersecurity, then only you can be secure. With
Mm.
Malwarebytes, we want to democratize that same level of cybersecurity and bring it for everyone, whether you're a small company, whether you're a consumer.
Wow, I love that you are doing that, Akshay, with your company because with Malwarebytes, because I think about cybersecurity. Well, first of all, as an average person, I don't think enough about it, And then when I do think about it, again, I just like what you mentioned, I sort of make that association that, oh, well, it's for the bigger companies, it's for the ones with the bigger websites, or more at stake. Like, who am I, to really feel like, what do I have to hide?
Right.
What do I have to, what do I need to really build that security for myself. And so I think that's really awesome that you are taking that approach with your company.
And unfortunately, Jen, this is the biggest misconception that people have is
Mm-hmm.
they think that I have nothing to hide. I have no, if I'm a small company, why would anyone target me?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, those small companies become the easiest targets and the most
Mm.
likely targets. And the number of cases that are happening with small, medium businesses being attacked by cyber threats, hit with ransomware, other cyber criminal activity is rampant.
Yeah.
And the repercussions for those companies, because they're often not prepared, is very dire. I mean,
Mm.
you go bankrupt. I mean, that's the most serious thing. If a big company, we've had cases of Sony and Target and other big companies that had major breaches. They've all been able to pay lots of money and recover and try to, get their brand reputation back because they have lots and lots of money to do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Smaller companies don't have that luxury. So many of them
Yeah.
have to go out of business at a growing rate. So
Yeah.
this is one of the things that we really try to emphasize is even if you feel that you are, you know, cybersecurity is not top of mind for you, let us be your ally. Let us be your friend to take care of that. But if you don't take care of it, it can be very, very expensive for you as a company and
Yeah,
as an
and
individual.
yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you stressing that, because I think that we don't think a lot, the average person doesn't think too much about that. Can you maybe share a couple of ways to spot, let's say, and feel free to give some little examples when it comes to malware, spyware, ransomware, or even just anything malicious? Like, what are some key things that, the average person can take note of, and consider having something like Malwarebytes to protect them?
Let me give a specific example, Jen, of a type of threat that's I'm very sad to share is on the rise, especially during shelter in place.
Mm-hmm.
And I've written a lot about this topic. It's called stalkerware. So I don't know if you're
Mm.
familiar with that, but stalkerware and it's often connected with domestic abuse or domestic violence type of cases, but it's
Wow.
on the rapid rise right now. So what happens is um, a victim is often being spied using stalkerware software without the user's consent. And this
Wow.
can include everything from stalking your location, your photo, your phone calls, your bank records, and so much more. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, this type of attacks on the rise. The number of cases that we see of it is also increasing. And it's a type of attack that we see with consumers, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
less of a business, but more targeted individual consumers.
Wow.
Now, some of the things that you'll see if you don't have products like Malwarebytes installed, then you'll see some different kinds of behaviors on your phone, right? You
Mm-hmm.
might see that your battery drains faster, or you may see that your phone, even though you're not using your phone, it's really warm.
Wow.
Sometimes you'll be making a call and you'll hear some static. And for the average person, they don't even know that they're being, they're being stalked and stalkerware is installed and being run on their phones. So
Wow.
those are the type of things that, a product like Malwarebytes, if you had it installed, it's a leading solution that helps, detect and let you know that there might be stalkerware, and you should take some actions, right? So that hopefully that gives you a really concrete example. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many other examples I can give, but I think given the times, given what's happening with shelter in place, I thought this is an example that I'd love for our listeners to be aware of, that this happens and it's a real threat.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate, but and it's hard to talk about, but at least in these times, domestic violence unfortunately has risen up, because people are at home and they finally have to deal with each other, and they don't want to deal with each other in a healthy way. And so, this is the first time I'm hearing about stalkerware, and so I appreciate you creating awareness of this, and I can only imagine that our listeners will appreciate it as well. And one thing I want to add to our listeners is that with Malwarebytes, if you download it, there's actually a free version that's offered. So, get started that way, right? Take that step to, be proactive, and even just download the app, even if it's for free, even for the free
Right.
version.
That's right. Absolutely. I encourage everyone out there, if you're, just want to check your security, you can download Malwarebytes. You can run it, scan your machine for free. And right now we're also even offering a free 14-day trial of our protection.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely encourage everybody, all the listeners, to encourage them to take advantage of that and make sure that your computer, your devices are all safe, and you can do that, at least do that first step for free.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Akshay, for what you do with Malwarebytes. I do want to transition to another question, but I want to make sure I've covered all my bases here. Is there anything else you want our listeners to know about Malwarebytes?
I think I think if you go to our website, you'll learn a lot about Malwarebytes.
Mm-hmm.
We're a company that's very, mission driven, very purpose driven. We believe in a world where nobody has to think about malware. Nobody has to
Mm.
worry about cyber threats. And that's our vision, that's our purpose. Our founder, CEO Marcin, is a remarkable individual, and he's truly created Malwarebytes. The origin story of Malwarebytes has been very altruistic and
Mm.
very giving to the community, and that's why we have some of the free tools we do.
Yeah.
So I definitely encourage everyone, if you're not secure, please take the time to look at Malwarebytes, and we would love to help you become more cyber secure.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Let's go ahead and shift gears now, Akshay. So, you have just this passion or this drive to create innovative products. And we were talking a little bit about this offline, but you also have kind of a passion now to not just help people create innovative products and take them to market. Or, I'm sorry, let me say that again. Nowadays, you have this drive to create innovative products and help them go to market. So, talk a little bit about this framework that you've created that our listeners could potentially benefit from.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me step back and tell the problem statement. So I'm a business and product executive, and throughout my career, when I was at FireEye, I've been at Oracle, been at NetApp, Malwarebytes, many big companies, as well as some startups.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I notice is many companies, almost every company I've been at, they struggle with one thing: how to create repeatable innovation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So some companies have been fortunate, and if you guys read some books on behavioral psychology and other things, companies and people tend to overlook factors like luck in the process. And so what happens is sometimes companies get quote unquote lucky with the right product market fit for the first product, but then when they go and try to create the second product, they really struggle and they don't understand why.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I've been researching and studying and trying to create frameworks is to help companies and create repeatable innovation.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I've done is I've distilled a 6-step framework of how to make innovation repeatable. And innovation is something that it's hard to quantify. There's a lot of art and science to it, but nonetheless, I've tried to distill 6 steps that are absolutely essential for innovation to be repeatable. And so if people are interested, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. I've been sharing many posts about each step of the innovation framework. But maybe I'll share with your listeners one of my, maybe 2 big insights that I have. The first one is, people talk a lot about, my first step of the process is really around empathy, and specifically customer empathy. And, I have seen I can cite hundreds of times where people say, I know the product we should build, or I know the feature we should build. And they don't deeply understand the problem. They don't understand why the customer has a problem. And then when they go build it, they may not be building the optimal solution or approach because they don't have deep empathy for the problem. So everything in my framework starts with this beautiful thing around customer empathy. If you're a product person, you have to deeply empathize and understand, the job, the role, the function, the challenges of the user persona that you're trying to solve the problem for. So that's kind of one quick thing I'll share, Jen.
Yeah.
And then the second thing that I'll share from the framework is an ability to rapidly experiment. A lot of people have this notion that failing is bad, right? If I try something and I fail, there's something called loss aversion, right? So if anybody's read, books on behavioral psychology, like Thinking Fast and Slow from Daniel Kahneman, they talk a lot about loss aversion. Loss is far more painful for human beings, 3 times on average, 3 times more painful than something good. So people really try to avoid loss. But in the product development cycle, we have to embrace failures. We have to fail fast, rapidly. And this is what I call rapid experimentation. So anyways, I gave your listeners maybe 2 tips of my framework. And those are 2 that I see most often overlooked.
Yeah. Well, which is why they should be mentioned, from the very beginning. I really like how you said customer empathy and really looking at the customer first and what they actually want and need, as opposed to maybe looking at it on a surface level and assuming, what the problem is. And it's diving in deeper in that sense is what I heard from you. And also, I really like how you said, rapidly experiment, like fail forward, fail fast. And I love how you kind of referenced how people feel pain more than they feel joy, and so they try to avoid it. But in the entrepreneur space, you have to see it as an opportunity to learn and grow and adapt and improve. And so I think those 2 alone really set the foundation for what the other 4 parts are to your framework.
So well said. And I think the most important thing, I always tell my product managers, ask why, right?
Mm,
If you say, here's what I need to build, have to ask, why are we building this? Why is this the right approach to build it? And if you can answer several layers of why,
mhm,
then you understand your customer. If you can bring it back to the customer and understand deeply what's the problem you're trying to solve.
mhm,
And then with the experimentation, I don't want people to have the illusion that just keep failing. But the
mm,
reality is that innovation is an iterative process, right? You
mhm.
guys have all heard stories about Thomas Edison and how many times he tried before he succeeded, or any innovator.
Yeah.
It's the same exercise with experimentation. You
Mhm,
need to fail, but fail fast, fail rapidly, iterate, improve, and
mhm,
then you're going to get to a better place. And then by the time you launch it, you're going to have, very strong conviction that that's going to be a successful product launch,
mhm.
because because of the failures, you've learned to improve and iterate to a point where you have high conviction and higher likelihood of success.
Mhm. Akshay, I just want to take a moment and thank you, first of all, for the um, like the passion you have for what you do with cybersecurity, and also just what you're doing now, creating this framework for innovators who want to get their products to market, and also to do repeat innovation, I believe is how you described it, which I think it's like, you think about, when people think about innovation, they think about like doing it once, kind of having that one hit kind of thing. But I love, like, in order to have sustainability, you have to do it repetitively. And so really expands my mind. I'm very inspired. And I know that our listeners will be as well. So Akshay, before we go, any final closing thoughts that you want to share with our listeners and who are small business owners and entrepreneurs?
I just want to say, embrace and enjoy the moment. I think, like, being a small business is such a rewarding experience. The joys of it, and going through this rapid growth. And I think the one thought that I would just share with the listeners in closing is, I think it's very easy when you're a small business to get very wrapped into the day-to-day operations.
Mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm,
taking a few moments, step back and think about, how are some of the strategies you can define to help grow your business. And if you can think about that, and think about innovation in that context, um, I think it's going to serve you very well in the long term. So that would be my
mm.
closing thought.
Beautifully said, Akshay. With that said, wow, thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed our conversations.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Jen.
Yes. And again, to our listeners, this is Akshay Bhargava. He is the CPO, that is Chief Product Officer at Malwarebytes. You can learn more about him and his company at malwarebytes.com, which is spelled MALWAREBYTES.com. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll chat with you in the next episode. Tune in next time.
Thank you.